All right, good morning. Welcome to Bethel Christian Church. It's so good to see you guys all out today. And Psalm 100. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. So what we're here to do is praise God. We're here to worship, and we're here to get all distractions. No matter what's going on outside, the noise of the world, Satan's wanting to take your mind, your focus, and turn it off of God. And I know that God wants us to turn it to him. And that's what we're here to do this morning, is put our focus on God as we worship and as we praise. If you would, we'll have a word of prayer, and we will start our service this morning. Father in heaven, once again, I just want to thank you. You are such a great God. You're a wonderful God. You bless us. You take care of us. You're just so good to us. And right now, Father, it's my prayer that every one of us get rid of all the noise and all the distractions from the outside. We know that it's Satan trying to crowd us and trying to push you out. And Father, it's my prayer that every one of us push him away. Get that out of us so that we can focus our minds and our hearts on what you want us to hear today. Just be with anyone that is participating this morning, Lord, and that's all of us, because we should be participating in some way, that we make this all about you. It's in your Son's name that I...
Every year since I was a kid, this time of year has always been a little rough on me. It's whenever I was a kid, it was meant that summer was over. I mean, even though according to the calendar it's not over. I don't know, forget when that is. But as far as a farm boy not wanting to go to school, that meant the summer was over, because you had to go to school and you couldn't stay at home, and that's where all the excitement was at home. And as I got older, I still always dreaded it, although college I didn't dread quite as bad as going to school as I did high school for other reasons. But anyway, and then as I got older and then I started having kids and stuff, those same feelings would come back that, well, summer's over. And so, you'd look back on your summer and think, well, did we do everything that good American parents ought to be doing? Did we give them the great American summer lifestyle, or whatever that is, And at times we failed, and at times we did okay. But, it's at this time of year that you look back and do that. Well, when the boys went to school, that was another end. They graduated high school. When Braxton graduated high school, that was an end. And Bryce graduated high school, that was an end. And Brianne graduated high school, that was an end. And they all went to Lakeland, which is just basically another high school with extracurricular activities. Anyway, But Brienne this fall went to U of I, and she's starting her journey. She wants to be a lawyer, and if anybody's ever discussed anything with Brienne, you'll understand why that's a fit for Brienne. She's hard-headed like her mom, and she can talk like her dad, so that's a dangerous combination. But this year, I tell all this for this, but this year, as you look back, and our job as parents, so those of us that have kids, is to technically work ourselves out of a job. We'll always be a parent, but we don't want to be that kind of parent. We need to make sure that we raise our kids that can go out, fend for themselves, and fight for themselves, and know that mom and dad is always in their corner. Even if we don't agree with what they did, we're still in their corner. But this summer was a little different. I mean, the kids' summer started so early, and just a lot of things going on, and this summer was particularly hard on me because of that, I think. Lost my mom this spring, so I reflected about that. The things there at home that I wanted to get done this summer, I didn't get done. You can't push off, you can't call the U of I and say, can we keep Brienne another couple of weeks? We don't have all the hay baled, or we don't have mom's retaining wall done or something. So, but there's always a time, and in Ecclesiastes, I think I said that right, chapter 3, it talks about a time to plant and a time to uproot. And I guess for our family, this is a time of uprooting. It's not a time of harvest, it's a time of uprooting. And as I read that verse, there's a difference. You think in agriculture, you plant and you harvest. Well, this is you planted, and then you uprooted. You actually removed it and sent it down. It doesn't exist where it was anymore. So, as we gather around today and as we reflect, and maybe some of you will reflect about your summer or yesterday or whatever it is, but just remember that God's always in control, and He's going to take care of us no matter what we're going through. I mean, this pandemic thing maybe is kind of drew us closer to each other, although we were supposed to stay 6 foot apart, but drew us closer as far as paying attention to different things. So as we gather around, I ask you just to be quiet, be still, and just reflect about your life, and are we going the direction that we want to go? So I'll close with some prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to come and gather at your table. I pray that you will be with us as we reflect about our lives, and pray that we are doing the things that we need to be doing as Christians. Pray this in your Holy Son's name. Amen.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not superstitious, but I just now, usually when I come up, I go up that side. This morning I came up this side. I hope that's a good sign, okay? And also I wanted to mention that I don't know what kind of week you had, but I think I've had a pretty good week. And the reason I say that is that this morning driving over here on my phone, I got a notification that my screen time is down 11% this week. So I didn't spend as much time looking at my phone this week. I was busy doing something else, so that's a good thing. And this week, most of the schools started back. Continue to be in prayer for that, because even though we've done schools for years and years and years and years, it's different this year. It's completely different. You know, a lot of the things are the same, but there's so many things that we're learning as we go. So be in prayer for all the leaders, that kind of thing. So hopefully we can get them all ironed out before it's all over with, and I think we will. I know that I think most of the kids were very excited to get back. All right. Funny story of the week. An older man approached an attractive younger woman at a shopping mall. "Excuse me," he said, "I can't seem to find my wife. Can you talk to me for a couple of minutes?" The woman, feeling a bit of compassion for the old fellow, said, "Of course, sir. Do you know where your wife might be?" And he said, "I have no idea, but every time I talk to a pretty woman, she appears out of nowhere." All right, let's have a word of prayer and we will get into the lesson. Father in heaven, thank you so much. Father, you are a good God. You bless us. You watch over us. You take care of us. Every one of us are so much better because of you. Father, may we never, ever forget that, and may we always give you the praise and the glory you deserve. Right now, I ask that you come in and be with us as we go through looking at this morning. Lord, there's so many lessons that each and every one of us can learn from all this. And it's my prayer that each one of us are wise enough, and that's what we're talking about is wisdom, wise enough to understand that whenever we realize that it's talking to us. Father, get rid of all distractions, especially in me. I pray that this all comes from you and not from me. And it's in your Son's name that I pray. Amen. If you want to turn in your Bibles to James chapter 3, we're going to continue in the book of James. And just to kind of review a little bit of what all we've covered since we've started, we've learned who James was, that he was the brother of Jesus himself. And we found out who the letter was written to. It was written to the Jewish Christians. We learned that our faith will be tested, how to overcome trials, how to transform trials of life into triumphs. We've learned that God calls us to be doers of His Word and not merely hearers of the Word. And we're going to discuss that a little bit more this morning. We learned about favoritism and how we should not be partial, how Christians should relate to everyone. We've learned that faith and works go hand in hand. Last week we talked about how to control our tongues, and every one of us could use that at some point or another. And this morning we're going to talk about wisdom. And as you know, Solomon, wisest man that ever lived, when asked by God, Solomon, I'm going to give you anything you want. And he didn't ask for his bills to be paid or his kids to always follow, God, or he didn't ask for the nicest house on the. He asked for wisdom. He asked for wisdom. And there's a story about Solomon, and I don't remember exactly where it's at, but one of his best displays of wisdom was that a woman brought a baby in, and anyway, long story short, there were two women fighting over it. One of them said it was hers, another one said it was their baby. Solomon said, okay, simple enough, we'll just cut the baby in half. One of you can take one half, the other one can take the other half. And the one that was the true mother said, no, let her have the baby. Solomon said, okay, this is yours, you can have the baby. Well, how did you know? Because a true mother, true parent would never allow that to happen to their child. Now, I don't know if you've ever had to settle a dispute between two people. One thing in management is that you run into that all the time, and you have to settle disputes, and it's very, very difficult. And it's so easy to take the side of the first person that comes up, but that's not always the case. Anyway, wisdom, that's what we all need to strive for. And got one more funny thing about wisdom. Kind of relates modern day about the baby. It says 2 women were on a city bus and they were fighting bitterly over the last seat available. Some of the other riders were trying to calm the people down and try to settle the argument. Couldn't get it done, so the driver yelled back there, "Hey, you two, why don't the ugly one take the seat?" Well, they both stood up the rest of the way. Now, I never did use anything like that trying to settle an argument. But anyway, back to wisdom. Verse 13 says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom." Now, James is following along with this theme from the verses before this, where he was talking about being a teacher. You know, he was saying that give it a lot of thought before you become a teacher, because you're going to be judged more severely. You're going to be judged more differently because people are following you and you are training them. And last week, like I said, we talked about the tongue. Be careful what you say, you know, because people judge you. People are listening to you. People are paying attention to the things we do, and that's the way it is with all Christians. And I said last week that every one of us are teachers in some way or another. Just my thought is that people learn from us, whether you're a parent, your children learn from you. If you have co-workers, your co-workers learn from you. You could just go on and on and on. We're all teachers of some sort. We have to be careful what we say, but this week he's saying, listen, be careful how you act. Be careful how you act. He says that the things you've done in humility, your good deeds, that's going to tell whether you have wisdom or not. Now, I don't want to skip over this word humility. Humility. There are very few humble people in this world. Very few. I think this room is full of them. I honestly believe that. But there are very few humble people in this world, because what James is saying here is that when you do something, are you doing it to lift somebody else up? And that's what he's saying. Humility is that you are humble, that other people's concerns come before yours. And that's what he's saying. Not very many people are like that. Well, yeah, I'll do this if you'll do this for me in return. Yeah, what am I going to get out of this? How much am I getting paid? And it goes on and on and on. And James is saying, listen, if you want to show that you are wise, that you truly have wisdom, make sure that your walk reflects your talk. Make sure that your walk reflects your talk, that you're doing exactly what you say you're going to do, that you're doing it for others. That is true wisdom. Verses 14 and 15. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom, and in my scripture, there's quotation marks around that. James is saying now, such wisdom what we call wisdom here does not come down from heaven, but it is earthly, unspiritual, and is from the devil. Wow. Wow. You talk about a slap in the face. Harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition. Bitter envy. Envy gets confused with jealousy a lot. And actually they don't mean the same thing. Envy means that you have something that I want, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get it. Jealousy is I have something that you want, and I'm not going to let you have it. Example. Your neighbor, good-looking woman, has a red convertible. You'd like to have that red convertible, so you're envious of that car. Now, if your neighbor, the good-looking woman, takes off driving down the street with your husband in that car, that's where jealousy comes in. Okay, get the difference? You're not envious of that car anymore. You're jealous because envy and jealous. Now, envy, if you watch any soap operas, let's go all the way back to Dallas. You don't have to show your hands, but how many people watch the show Dallas? Think about that. That show was full of envy. It was full of envy. Everybody wanted what everybody else had. Okay? The Ewings wanted what the Barnes had. The Barnes wanted what the Ewings had, and you can just go on and on and on and on. And there were constant fights and quarrels among each other because bitter envy and selfish ambition. There's nothing wrong with ambition, wanting to be better than what you are, but if you are trying to be better than what you are at the expense of someone else, and because someone else has something and you want it, that's what's wrong. And that's what he's talking about, is that humility, as it was in the first verse that we talked about. And as I said many times, James uses a lot of contrast. Humility, and now we're talking about envy and selfish ambition. The complete opposite. Humility, you think of others. Envy and selfish ambition is you're thinking of yourself. And that's what it's talking about, isn't that? That you want things so bad for yourself that you'll do anything to get it. Now, that's not godly wisdom. That's earthly wisdom. And then in verse 16, as Christians, this should be enough to tell us not to try this, not to desire this, that it's unspiritual and it's from the devil. Some versions say demonic, that's what envy and selfish ambition is. Right there, we should be able to stop and just go on from there, because as Christians, as I said, that should be enough to say, hey, you don't want it. And that's what James is saying. Wisdom, you think of others. Earthly wisdom, which comes from the devil, is envy and selfish ambition. Now, on a side note, the reason it says it's from the devil is because the devil himself, he was in heaven. He was in heaven, but he wanted to become like God. He was envious because God could do everything, and the devil wanted that. That's where envy and selfish ambition, and that's what James is referring to here, of being from the devil and being demonic, is that Satan himself was kicked out of heaven because of that. Don't be put in that same category. Don't be like the devil. Verse 16. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. Disorder and every evil practice. Chaos. Chaos. All of us have been in the middle of chaos at some point or another. Sometimes it was self-inflicted, and sometimes it was because of someone else. I know that in the years, and I know I allude a lot to my years of management, but in my years of management, a lot of times there were people that couldn't manage unless they were in the middle of chaos. You know, they created their own problems, that they did whatever they could to mess things up because that's all they knew how to do it. And James is saying here, that's not good. That's not good. I don't like chaos. I really don't. Can I get through it? Yeah, I can get through it. But James is saying that's what earthly wisdom will do to you, is that it will put you in the middle of chaos. Verse 17. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. So, how do we recognize heavenly wisdom? Disorder and chaos, verse before. This one, this is how you know it's from heaven, is it's pure. Pure. What exactly does pure mean? And that's something I think that's hard for us to understand because we don't have a lot of things that are pure anymore. Basically, pure meaning of pure is free from any contamination from the outside. Pure is whenever you're free from any contamination from the outside. So, in the middle of all the chaos that goes on, that you may be in some disorder, there may be some things going on, but as Christians, you don't give in to that. You stick to your guns. You stick to your wisdom. You don't become defiled. You remain pure, not contaminated from the outside. Peace-loving. Peace-loving. Once again, you remain calm in the middle of chaos. You remain humble. You're always looking out for others' interests instead of your own. And anytime there's turmoil, anytime there is fights among you, it's because of your own selfish desires. We talked about that earlier in this book, is that quarrels always start because of our own selfish desires. Peace-loving is that in the middle of all that quarreling, in the middle of all the fighting, that you remain calm and you get things settled out. The next thing is that you are considerate. Considerate. You always think of others. Now, I have a confession to make. I'm getting, you guys are going to think less of me because I make all these confessions from up here, but I know y'all think I'm the perfect husband, but I'm not. I don't know how many times in our marriage, 37 years, right? It's 37 years. Janet has said, "You're not considerate at all." I can't remember what I did at those times. James, you're not considerate at all. Why? In those times, I put myself first. I put myself first. Heavenly wisdom, if you want to get that, once again, you always consider others before you consider yourself. Always, bottom line. James says that right here. That's what it's saying, that you are considerate of others. Submissive. Submissive. Now this is one nobody likes. but submissive, because so often we think of this being submissive as being weak. Of being weak, well, we had this conversation the other night. I said something about, well, it's not hard to tell who wears the pants in that family, And anyway, they looked at me and said, "Really? You're the one that's saying this?" I even though I'm not very considerate, I believe that Janet and that we always try to consider each other's feelings. And basically submissive. I want to make sure that I read this. It's ready to conform to the authority or the will of others. Basically follows the rules and does what is asked of them. Teachable. If you can't remember anything else, being submissive is being teachable. In other words, I know it all. Is the opposite. There's nothing you can show me. I don't need to listen to you because I already know it all. Submissive is not that way. Wisdom. Wisdom, you're constantly learning, and that's what it's saying, is that you are willing to listen to somebody else because maybe you can learn something. You always listen to both sides of an argument. And just real quick, and then we're going to move on. I think it's worse now than it ever has been. Nobody listens to the other side of the argument. If you don't agree with me, people, then you're just, for lack of a better term, you're just plain stupid. That's what's going on in our world today. Is that if you don't agree with me, then you're just out of touch. That's not wisdom. That's earthly wisdom. James is saying, be teachable. Listen to the other side of the argument, whatever it is. Listen to what's going on. Full of mercy. Here's another one that's difficult. Full of mercy. It's been said mercy is not getting what you deserve in spite of it, everything. Basically, mercy is having that compassion of forgiveness shown towards someone when it's in your power to punish. I'm going to say that one more time so that everyone grasps that. Mercy is the compassion of forgiveness shown towards someone when it's in your power to punish. Mercy. Wisdom. You show a lot of mercy. And good fruit. Good fruit. People want to be like you. That's a reflection of wisdom. Whenever you are wise enough and you walk your talk, people want to be like you. Impartial. Impartial, not judgmental. Don't be judgmental. Be fair. If there's nothing else that I can say that I'm proud of in the years of my working career and my years in management, is that more people said that I was fair than ever said I was unfair. I'm proud of that fact, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And sincere. Sincere. You really mean what you say, and you do what you say. That's what sincere is, whenever you really mean what you say, and you do what you say. Our world needs that today. Our world needs a lot more heavenly wisdom. We need people to be sincere, and it starts with us. It starts right here with us, that every one of us need to be sincere in everything that we say and everything that we do so that people know whenever they look at us and whenever we say something, they know it's true. It doesn't have to be questioned. That's what true wisdom is. And we all know people like that. We all know people that, hey, you know what, they said it so you can take it for truth. We also know people that are on the other end of it. I wouldn't believe a word that guy said. Make sure that you're the one that is sincere. Verse 18, James is summing it all up right here. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. He says, in the middle of all the chaos, in the middle of the evil and all the disorder, those who have the wisdom are the ones that are going to stand up and be calm, and they're going to sow peace. They're going to sow peace. They're going to listen to both sides. They're going to reason with everything, and they're going to come to a conclusion that everyone can agree to, and they're going to reap a harvest of righteousness. Now, righteousness is another one of those words that in my way of thinking, that people look at it wrong. People look at it and go, oh, you're just so righteous, you're up here and I'm way down here. Simple meaning and translation of being righteous. You have a life that follows good morals. You live a life that follows good morals. That's being righteous. James is saying that if you have heavenly wisdom, you go through all this, that you're going to settle arguments. You're going to make peace. You're going to, and you know what? You live a good moral life and people see that. So, what are we supposed to learn from all this? Bottom line is that James is saying that you want wisdom. Back in the first chapter, he says, well, you need to ask for it. But he says here, there's heavenly wisdom and there's earthly wisdom. And you have to choose between the two. Earthly wisdom, pretty simple. Self-serving, you think of yourself, you don't think of anybody else. It's from the devil. From the devil. He doesn't think about anybody but himself. Or there's heavenly wisdom, which is what we all should shoot for. That we're humble. That we think of others first. We always think of others. But if for no other reason, heavenly wisdom, it comes from God. It comes from God. So it should be pretty simple what our choice should be. So, one of the best ways to learn is think back. I'm not going to say think back the whole week, because if you're like me, I can't remember what I did in the middle of the week, let alone hardly even yesterday. But I bet you yesterday, just yesterday, that you guys, everyone in here, had a time whenever you could choose between either one of those, heavenly wisdom or earthly wisdom, where you could think of yourself. It may have been, you know, maybe your wife asked, what do you want to eat tonight? I don't want to go here. You know, Janet, she'll say, we'll be out and about, and then she'll say, where do you want to eat? I say, I don't care, it's up to you. She'll say something, I'll look at her, well, I don't want to eat there. Thinking of myself. Sounds simple, but that's exactly what it is. I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to eat there. If you don't do the little things correctly, you'll never do the big things correctly. So this coming week, can't change what you did in the past. But this coming week, when those decisions come up, whenever things come up that you have that choice to pick between earthly wisdom and heavenly wisdom, be sure to pick the heavenly wisdom. Don't think about what you want. Think about what will be done to lift others up. That's what true wisdom is. If you would stand and we'll sing our hymn of invitation, Room at the Cross for You. We'll sing the first verse. First thing, before I forget it, family camp. They're still planning on doing family camp. Talked to Tyler yesterday, and you can go down there and camp, but nobody can stay in the dorms. So if you have a camper, you can go down there. They even have an area if you want to take a tent down to sleep in a tent. That's fine too. But the dorms will not be open, but they're opening the shower. So you'll still be able to take a shower and that kind of thing. And they're going to have a speaker every night. And I think he said Sunday morning will be, Christ Church will be handling Sunday morning service down there. And I think that there's some of you that go down there on that Sunday. But anyway, family camp is still on. Call the camp if you have any questions about it. The Wednesday night Zoom meeting, and I'm not going to beat it to death, but you know, if you're interested, please get on there. You know that it not for me, but it's very, very, very good. And once again, tech booth workers. If you're interested in finding out about that, please take part in that. Give these guys up there a break. So I appreciate every one of them that work up there. And I think that's all that I have. Is there anything else that we need to?
I wanted to talk a minute. You asked about the shoe boxes. I got, what is it, the orphanage where she went the little boy went a couple years ago, and she talked about the fact that they erased their paper and used it. So school supplies to us don't seem that important, but they're cheap. We can send lots of paper. We can send lots of pencils, pencil sharpeners. You know, lots of school supplies. Kim would like for us to concentrate on the older children this year, which is a very good idea. However, our boxes do furnish, they will tell you that your boxes furnish a family. They furnish a family. So if you find a bargain, like Dollar General, you know, is good. Walmart is good. If you find a bargain on summer clothes, we can distribute those. It's important. One thing I wanted to mention is, it's not always what you think's important about what they get and what they treasure. That little girl may have gotten a pair of shoes that she hadn't had for a long time, and they fit perfect. One little girl, I remember, got a bar of soap. And that was such a treasure because she was in an orphanage where they shared their soap. One little girl got a letter from a little boy that was 8 and sent her a shoebox, and 15 years later she looked him up and they were married. You know, it's amazing that.
Such a good ministry, you know, it really is. Like I said, what seems, we take for granted, things that we have every day, you know. And anyway, pay close attention to that. Is there anything else that we need to mention? What time do I?
7:30 on Wednesday nights.
Okay, 7:30 on Wednesday night, sorry, John. Yeah, 7:30 on Wednesday nights. And I know that this is the time of year people are trying to get more stuff done because it is getting dark a little bit earlier and that kind of thing. So I look forward to kind of pick up in the next month or two, because we plan to continue it, you know, so, you know, and no great expectations, we just sit on there and talk. And sometimes we just need that, so keep that in mind. Anything else?